been interesting traveling with the film because I don't think people in America realize that the working class are really on a tightrope on the regular. Love the posters, man.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah,
I
this is
recently I recently did the trilogy rewatch because I was like, is it as good as I remember? And the answer was yes.
okay. Okay. I want to talk about Omaha, but before we do, I need to say two things. First of all, I think you're 100% right. And second of all, this of all the chaos behind me, that is the number one thing that people say. When
Yeah,
they see that, they're like, yeah. And the number of people say, I just rewatched it and they're still great.
yeah. It's pretty wild. It makes me actually every time this like we don't make movies with that like funness anymore. It made me really nostalgic. I was
There,
like,
there's
no.
there's such a joy in it. Isn't there just joy in those films?
Yeah,
Um,
we got
I,
to
I
find a Rebecca.
do you have a favorite one, or is it just first one all the way?
The first one all the way, of course, but the second one I like what they're I love the kind of the meta-ness of it a lot. The third one I remember not being good, and then the rewatch was like, actually, it was more the criticism of a trilogy than it was the movie itself.
Yeah, yeah. I found that like the second one is my favorite because it's the most fun,
Yeah,
which is sounds like blasphemy, but I think obviously the first one is the best by far.
yeah,
And the third one, I actually we just watched them with my two sons, and I think the third one, it's just the last 5 minutes that the last final beats of the flying train that's what you remember, and it's
yeah,
like you
exactly.
know, but the movie works. Like it is like the whole thing. Anyway,
Yeah,
I could talk back to the
yeah,
future.
yeah, yeah. That's
Anyway, let's talk about your movie.
yes.
Uh, I am thrilled to be speaking today with Robert Machoian, the writer of Omaha. Robert, thank you so much for the time. I really
Yeah, of
appreciate
course.
it.
I really appreciate it.
Omaha really is a special film, and I say this genuinely. It is such a quiet piece, but says so much. In each scene, just feels sort of pregnant with information and tension, even if it's unspoken. But I mean, you wrote the film. Where did it come from?
Yeah, I had I had lived in Nebraska for a few years after high school and really kind of fell in love with the state as a whole. And so I funny, I tell people my family vacations there because I have such an affinity for it. And after I went back to college, like I was older when I went back to college and I already had children and I had just graduated from graduate school and was trying to get myself together and figure out what I was going to do and figure out a career in filmmaking at the time of discovering this like situation that happened in Nebraska specifically. And I wasn't too far removed from it. And that was kind of the kernel. I had two kids. They were the age of Ella and Charlie. I mean, I even named them based off of like the two short films I had made in school. The characters were Ella and Charlie, and I had cast my own kids. And and my wife had to have cesareans with our children, and so her health had always been a part of our family discussion, a part of my paranoia. And that kind of reading the kind of news articles um, and hearing what was going on in Nebraska and the safe haven law really is I just imagined it. And then I threw my kids in the car and we drove across the country all the way to Omaha. And I really kind of paid attention to our experience as it was kind of happening and started to kind of document. And it was the first road trip my kids had ever taken. And that was really important for me because, what I said to Cole when he first, he's like, what are your takeaways for me? And as I kind of dive into this journey, and I said, just remember these kids are having the best experience of their life. They've never been on the road before. and this is really, really important. It can't just be weighted one way. Um, because what they'll remember at the end of this is all of those memories. And so
Mm.
a lot of it was it was really interesting to kind of write a narrative piece, but have these elements that like my kids really played a role in the writing, like the jumping on the beds at the first hotel. You know, it's like this really interesting. The way children view the world is such a, we still view it that way. We just like as adults, you go like, oh, I don't jump on the bed. But every time you go to a hotel and if the hotel's cool, you're like, oh, this is cool. It's the same thing. You know? So that's really what was the kernel of it. And I really wanted to get at the humanity of a father. And this, like, I didn't realize until recently that this is a repeating theme for me, and I think it's really born out of the fact that I wanted to be a dad at a very young age. And that was the one thing I was certain of. You know, like career, like in high school, what it was, I played in bands. I imagined being a rock star. You know, I drew. I imagined being a painter. Those things always were very, very fluid. But like being a dad, was a thing I knew I wanted to do without a doubt. And so I find I tend to kind of lean in story narratives with like the things that like a father has to kind of deal with. And it really, and I wouldn't say that it's not like, you know, that there are not a lot of films because there are a lot of films about dads. But I'm trying to always find the nuances of what that actually means that isn't totally kind of addressed in cinema.
Well, and you know what? I was talking, I have had the chance to talk to Cole, and I wanted to ask you about this as well, because one of the things that I find so fascinating about this particular road trip, and you talked about it there, the way kids see the world, every person in the car seems to be coming from a different perspective. You know, Ella is sort of caught in the middle, and dad, if you will, has the weight of the world upon him. And then you've got I think it's Charlie is the young one,
Yeah.
and he's just like, woo, everything's amazing. And as you're writing this, can you talk about that? Because these are the very different moments in each of their lives.
Yeah, for me, it was very, really important. The thing I really loved about Ella's character in the writing of it and the exploring, just the research of it, is girls at this very age
Mm,
really have this ability to oscillate between the imaginative world and reality. They actually, at least in the articles I was reading, can travel in both. It's like
mm,
they'll have a tea party, and to them, the tea party will be very fictionalized, and they will live in that fictional world and then step out of it and be in the real world. And they say boys, it's like they live in fantasy, and then eventually, when they hit 11 and 12, it's the real world and the fantasy world actually goes away. And I was like, oh, this is really interesting because she's the older sister and she really is aware of the loss of her mother and feeling the obligation that kind of like is placed upon her. And then with Charlie, which I thought was really great, was like one, he's trying to register how to feel about the losses of his mother based off of his sister and dad, who both are not acknowledging that hardship. And so they're actually allowing him to live in this fantasy world, which I think is
mm,
really important and is very true in kind of trauma situations. And I had a really horrible situation when I was uh, just graduated from high school, and it was a travesty. And I remember just protecting my niece. She was like 4 at the time, watching everyone in the room crying, and me going like, "Oh, hey, I've got some candy. Let's like," and really just trying to shield the just kind of horror that was surrounding it. And I feel that's what Dad is really attempting to do for Charlie. And then with Ella, I was like, well, he's actually relieving because she also wants some escapism. And
mm.
so the times like when they go and they play in the at the like McDonald's type place, it's like allowing her to have these little elements of fantasy and she wants to kind of be in there too, but then feels this kind of maternal obligation. So for me, it was really, I mean, I love that stuff. Like for me, writing characters is really neat to kind of when you begin to understand their perspectives and they begin to really tell you who they are and then they start to talk. I mean, that's my favorite part is when I feel like I'm just a dictator And with Charlie, it was really, and he's very close to how my son Elias was at that age.
Mm.
I mean, he would say the most profound things and then just like fart and then run off, and you're just like, what is this? You know? And I really wanted to capture that. And I honestly, Cole has said this a few times, which is like, I was adamant that we cast a 6-year-old and I knew it was going to be hell, but I needed the energy of a 6-year-old. And it's like, that's really true because that's really hard to act. Is that really kind of fantastical element. And Wyatt, the days that I was on set, Cole and the crew did a really kind of good job to try and remove the weight of like you're making a movie and people are putting thousands and thousands of dollars and people are sacrificing time. Could you stop like messing around and let's just get the scene? They did such a great job of like let's play now. And so that was and McGar John. One of the things that for me I was really appreciative. He had a little one just like I think when he started shooting, I think his child was about a year old.
Mm.
So I was really happy about that because I'm like, that's such a fresh, like as far as a father, like all these things hit you. The like I have to feed this thing. Like for me, when I was doing the research, it was the first time I dove into like the mental elements of father. I mean, I was a dad at the time, but I didn't realize they say like, women when they're pregnant, they start nesting. And men psychologically go into this like providing mode. And when we had Harper, I like quit my job. We bought a house. I went back to school. And my dad called me and was like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "What do you mean?" It's like, "You're doing all the hardest things at one time. You're having a kid and you bought a house and you changed your job. What are you doing?" And then I read this book and it was like, "Oh, this is like a very real part of fatherhood that you start to just like freak out and kind of do this stuff and you're not aware of it, you're just gonna do what I did." So it was really like John really was like I felt at a where he really understood dad and it was really fresh because even in his own life he could kind of pull from his own kind of experience, which I loved. I thought he did such a great job.
Honestly, I will say I think these are two of the best child performances I've seen in years. Like they're just incredible, and I can see like for I guess was Wyatt, like it's just pure. It's
Yeah.
just pure, and you get that sense, and you can see that John's relationship with them as dad has that sort of like he's taking care of them as performers as well as characters as well.
Yeah, what he did that was really great. I was the first couple days that I was on set that got me so excited was he really took on, he would talk to them
Mm.
as their dad, even off camera. And that was really great because Wyatt really needed that, and Molly really leaned into it as well, which I was like, I mean, she's got a brother that age, but it's also I mean, it's like as an actor, you're like, hey, you've got your lines, you've got your scenes, and I get that you're like wanting to be in that space, and Wyatt would just come up and lean on her and just kind of put the weight of his body on her as he rested, and she would let it. And I was like, man, like she is again off screen. She knows that this will appear in the film if she lets it happen off screen. And I was like, that's really brilliant. I was telling her yesterday because I got to see her yesterday after. I mean, she's 12 now. It's like she's so much taller. But I said they were kind of asking about the casting process, and Cole had sent me a couple actors. All the actors that Cole sent me to audition for Ella were really great, but you could tell that they had played kids in movies.
Mm.
And Molly took the opposite approach and underplayed. It was the scene with the dog at the SPCA, and everyone played it like Dad, and she went, Dad, what's like she's trying to figure out what's happening. I was like, the second I watched you underplay it, I was like, you understand. There's like all these other kids know that like Hollywood wants kids to be like this,
Yeah.
and this is actually how kids are, and she played that. And to hear her even talk about it, she's like, I was young then. And I'm like, you're 12.
Oh, As
Yeah.
long as she didn't say back in the day, we go
She
with
did.
that.
Yeah, thankfully she didn't say that, but she was like, I was such a kid then. It
Um,
was,
yeah, oh, it's a phenomenal performance. I know
yeah.
we're running out of time, but I wanted to ask you before we go about the hidden homeless because that is such a key theme in this film. And I was wondering, we've talked a lot about the story, the dad and the relationships and it coming from your own life. What sort of research purpose did you put in to bring that element of the story? Because that really adds something to it, and it's something that, of course, the kids' characters don't understand, and John has to bear that burden.
Yeah, they don't. For me, it was like the fact that Rebecca and I were like really on the brink. I mean, we were both treading water, trying to get ourselves to a place where I would eventually have a stable job and we would be able to even the stable jobness. I was talking to Cole about this yesterday. I work at a university now, and I almost got kicked off my healthcare like 2 days ago because of a technical error based off of the hospital and the insurance company not communicating. And I was like,
Mm.
I don't think people realize how close to this idea many people are. I mean, most people in America don't have $1,000 in their savings account. I mean, I grew up in the working class. My dad was a high school music teacher. We were treading water pretty much all of our lives. Um, And I don't, it's been interesting traveling with the film because I don't think people in America realize that the working class are really on a tightrope on the regular. And when I was writing for John, it was a lot of people that I knew that were like, just one or two things have to happen and we'll be living in our car.
Wow. Wow.
And so we drove across the country a couple years ago with all my kids. They wanted to see the South. And I was like, man, we are not doing very well in America. Like, as a country, there are a lot of people treading water. And I was like, I wish we kind of could have this. They do a great job of dividing us as a people, but I wish we would kind of start having this conversation. Like I wish when you said to somebody, "How are you doing?" they felt comfortable enough to be like, "Not well,"
Yeah.
and be like, "What is it that's not well that's going on?" And it could be the fact that the electric bill's jumping, $300 a month, and we have nothing we can do about that. So it's like I really wrote from I was like, there are a lot of really amazing people, and that was probably the most important thing for me in the writing of this and the communication with Paul or with Cole was I was like, it's important that the viewer knows he's a good dad and that the mother was a good mother. And we will know that through the way Charlie and Ella act and interact with their dad because these are not people that just like have always been in this situation. It's how quickly you can become in this situation. And there's a misnomer that there's a lot of social programs out there that are just like the second you're in trouble, here we go. Like most Section 8s around the state are it's a 2-year waiting list.
Mm.
So if you're trying to get help with your housing, that's 2 years right there. So it's like I didn't want it to be the main driving message. I want family to be the driving message and his father. One of the books that I thought a lot about was Shel Silverstein's The Giving Tree because it's such a
Mm.
powerful story that if you look at it from a parental standpoint, you're like, that's exactly parenting. Eventually you'll be a stump that your kids will sit on. And you'll be
Well,
happy with that.
yeah.
So, yeah. So I hope that resonates with people and that it lingers a little bit, but I hope they really think about parenting. I hope they hug their kids a little bit more. I hope they tell their kids they love them more and they kind of make sure that they know that. And maybe sometimes as your kids get older, I think it's actually important to say, you know, there were times that we were struggling.
Yeah.
My oldest son sometimes likes to be like, we were so poor. I was all, you were not poor. You were fine. I fed you. I clothed you. You had a bedroom. Me and your mom were poor.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, honestly, I know the theme of the film definitely is family, but that adds another layer to it, and I just think it's such a stunning film, honestly.
Thank you. I
Well,
really appreciate that.
I honestly, I mean every word. And honestly, thank you so much for your time. I'm with Robert Machoian, the writer of Omaha.
Yeah, thanks,
Um,
man.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thanks for doing this. Yeah, we'll see you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thanks so much. Okay, bye-bye.